Most companies don't fail loudly. They fail quietly, slowly, while everything still looks fine. Revenue's coming in, the team is busy, the founder is optimistic, and then suddenly it's over. Not because of one big mistake, but because of a series of small decisions nobody questioned. Welcome to SYRULON, your guide to unlocking wealth, mastering finance, and living inspired. Today, we're exposing how billion-dollar companies avoid failure, not with motivation or hype, with systems, discipline, and uncomfortable truths. As we go through this, ask yourself one thing. Which of these principles am I ignoring right now? Let's begin. 1. They design for survival before they design for growth. Average thinking says, growth will solve our problems. Wealth thinking says, growth will expose our problems. Billion-dollar companies assume stress before it arrives. They ask, what breaks if demand spikes? What snaps if revenue drops 30%? What fails when leadership changes? Amazon prioritized infrastructure long before profits. Toyota built redundancy into production, not just efficiency. Apple stockpiles cash because liquidity equals control. If your business doubled overnight, would it thrive or unravel? If growth came faster than expected, what part of your business would struggle first? Cash, systems, or people? 2. They use debt strategically, not emotionally. Average companies use debt to survive. Elite companies use debt to position themselves. They don't borrow because they're desperate. They borrow because the math makes sense. Long-term debt for long-term assets. Predictable cash flows before leverage. Worst-case scenarios modeled before money is accepted. This is why during crises, large companies buy while others sell. They prepared when optimism was cheap. Debt isn't the villain. Unplanned dependence on it is the problem. If one bad quarter threatens your existence, the structure, not the market, is the problem. 3. They create cultures where bad news moves fast. Most companies don't fail from lack of information. They fail from filtered information. Bad news gets softened. Warnings get delayed. Reality gets postponed. Billion-dollar companies do the opposite. They reward honesty over harmony. They surface problems early when they're still fixable. Netflix encourages radical candor. Bridgewater institutionalized open disagreement. Not because it's comfortable, but because denial is expensive. If people are afraid to speak up, leadership is already blind. Be honest, does bad news travel fast or slow where you work? 4. They don't confuse activity with progress. Average organizations love motion. Meetings, reports, dashboards, activity everywhere. Elite organizations love leverage. They focus on the few actions that move outcomes. They cut projects aggressively. They shut down initiatives that don't compound results. If everything matters, nothing does. The most dangerous sentence in business is, "We've always done it this way." Precision beats effort. Focus beats hustle. 5. They adapt before they're forced to. Most failed companies didn't miss the future. They ignored it. Wealth thinking says, stick to the principle, adjust the plan. Kodak invented digital photography and dismissed it. Nokia dominated mobile phones and resisted change. Billion-dollar companies assume today's strategy has an expiration date. They don't cling to plans, they cling to principles. They constantly ask, what's changing? What's becoming cheaper? What's being decentralized, automated, or eliminated? If your strategy hasn't changed in years, the market has already moved without you. 6. They separate ego from decision-making. Average leaders need to be right. Elite leaders need to be accurate. Ego says, I built this. I know best. Wealth thinking says, data doesn't care who founded the company. Data is allowed to challenge authority. Decisions are reviewed, not defended. Outcomes matter more than opinions. Jeff Bezos openly encouraged teams to disagree. He famously said, "You need to be good at being wrong." Ray Dalio formalized decision-making frameworks to reduce bias. Here's a question worth sitting with. Do your decisions get questioned or defended? Because organizations that worship founders often collapse under them. But even the best decisions fail without time on their side. 7. They think in decades, not in quarters. Average companies optimize for this year. Elite companies optimize for the next 10 years. Short-term optimization creates long-term fragility. Billion-dollar companies delay gratification deliberately. They reinvest when others extract. They protect reputation even if it hurts short-term revenue. Why? Because compounding requires patience, and patience requires conviction. If every decision is about this year, you're quietly mortgaging the future. Do you think long-term thinking is rewarded or punished in today's world? Now let's talk about a silent killer most companies ignore. 8. They master cash flow, not just profit. Profit looks good on paper. Cash flow decides who survives. Many profitable companies collapse because growth drains liquidity. Inventory ties up cash. Receivables delay reality. Average companies celebrate revenue. Billion-dollar companies monitor cash flow daily. They shorten cycles. They negotiate terms aggressively. They always know how long they can survive without new income. Let me be blunt. If you don't know your cash runway, you don't have certainty, you have hope. 9. They avoid bet the company moves. Average companies bet everything on one product, one market, one assumption. Billion-dollar companies diversify risk intelligently. Multiple revenue streams, distributed suppliers, no single customer that can destroy the business. They think in probabilities, not miracles. If one decision can end everything, the structure is fragile, no matter how exciting it looks. Ask yourself, if one assumption fails, does everything collapse? Because robustness beats brilliance. But there's one more layer, one almost nobody talks about. 10. They understand that failure is a process, not an event. Companies don't suddenly collapse. They drift. They stop questioning. They stop measuring honestly. They stop listening. They stop learning. Elite organizations institutionalize learning, postmortems without blame, feedback loops without ego. They assume decay is natural and fight it deliberately. Success is dangerous because it whispers, relax, which brings us to the bonus insight. They build systems that outlive people. This is the quiet difference between rich companies and legendary ones. Average businesses rely on talent. Great businesses rely on repeatable systems. Processes are documented. Knowledge is transferable. Leadership is replaceable. This is why McDonald's works anywhere, why Apple survived leadership changes, why legendary companies outlast founders. If key people vanish tomorrow, would the machine still run? Wealth isn't brilliance, it's durability. So, SYRULONs, here's the real takeaway. Billion-dollar companies don't avoid failure by accident. They avoid it through discipline, humility, and structure. They plan for downside. They respect reality. They build for longevity, not applause. The question isn't whether challenges are coming, they are. The question is, are you structured to survive them? If this challenged how you think about business or money, like the video, subscribe to SYRULON, and share it with someone still mistaking movement for progress. Because average thinking is expensive. And remember, your future deserves more than average.